Hey, well, thanks a lot for joining. I'm here with, right now, Eric and Stacy. Thanks for joining. I know we just wrapped up another CollabTalk TweetJam. The topic this month was, do we need private channels in Microsoft Teams? And just general thoughts about the conversation today.
Yes, we do. I think that was a response to the question number one. I thought it was an absolutely outstanding conversation that we had, and it came down to two camps. Yes and no. I don't think we changed any minds from the panelists. It was a yes or no. I'm for them, I'm against them, and then the rest was fill in the blanks on why.
And for those that weren't, but if you weren't participating, I tried to start the whole pro private channels equals hashtag Team Edward, and anti private channels was Team Jacob. Didn't get picked up on quite so much, but I thought, hey, if there's something that's going to push us into national ranking on Twitter, it's going to be that crowd. But apparently that part didn't happen.
Didn't work. Next time.
I was totally when I made my comment way in the beginning, I have that love-hate relationship, right? I see all the great potential of things that can do, but then I look at it from the other side, from the user's point of view and the organization's point of view. It's like one more thing. So,
I get that.
And it's just like, I deal with these clients every day. They're like, okay, so which site do I use? And what do I use here? And what do I use there? And now we've got this Teams, it's a separate app. And now, we've got these channels, and now we're introducing private channels. And they're confused. They're like, there is so much. And we keep adding more and more. Eventually, as when we add stress to somebody, eventually someone shuts down. At what point do organizations start to shut down and say, we got to go to something much simpler because it's getting way too complex?
Yeah, look, I see both sides on this. I'm not trying to walk the line on this. I mean, so much of this, and of course, part of what I've reminded people, the MVPs that were participating in the RDs on the panel, to be careful that we're, the NDA, we learn some things about what Microsoft's doing. But Microsoft is talking openly about the fact that they have something that's deployed internally now. So they're actually playing with it. They're seeing it. They just can't talk about it yet. So we're aware of some of what Microsoft is doing. And of course, hey, we even though we've seen some different bits and have talked about it all last week at Summit, what actually goes live could be slightly different. We have to see what's generally available when it's available. It's why one of the questions that was asked, and you could go to buckleyplanet.com and you can see the blog post of the questions that we run through, 7 questions. I'll run through these really quick, but are private channels in Microsoft Teams a good idea? Why or why not? 2, do private channels in Teams go against a product's otherwise simple or flat collaboration model? Your thoughts on that? The idea that it's this just supposed to be simple, flatter permission structure similar to Yammer, as opposed to the complexity that has been historically in SharePoint. Yeah, I mean, does the idea of adding this complexity, and it does from an IA standpoint, from a management permission standpoint, compliance, I mean, all those things where we have to kind of see what the solution looks like to be able to talk about, but just on its,
I understand it. Yeah.
And I understand it, but one of the things when Teams came around, where one of the selling points of Teams is it's a place where you can collaborate, and it doesn't matter what department or where you work at in the company. You don't have to worry about breaking permissions on sites that you don't want people to have access to. You can go, and people from across the different areas can go to one place, and permissions aren't as big of a deal because you're invited. So now. Right. So they're happy about that. Great. We don't have to struggle about permissions because we have companies that have to be audited on permissions, right? And they get busted.
So questions 3 and 4, we kind of go into that, where we talk about what are the business justifications or the business reasons, and what are some of the workarounds for not having private channels today. And this is where, I mean, we saw the divide, the pro and cons of private channels. And where I say that, that's one of the things that I love about tabs and connectors and bots, the ability to go and create that hub, bring in these different pieces. Say that you're I can't adopt Teams today without having this private channels. So you have chat, you have the ability for secure documents to spin up a separate secure SharePoint site or list or library, and then surface that through a tab or within files. Stacy,
Yeah, those workarounds they don't work. And I go back to question number 2. I understand why people are saying that it goes against sort of a flat architecture, but the problem is, for me, this is still an IA issue. The workarounds you just stated, they're not good workarounds. I still need to have a collection of people that come together, but I want to be able to have side conversations that may need to occur that are still tied into that team. And maybe I'm also so passionate because I need this in my company. This is how we work with our external partners. And we have to create 2 teams, one for ourselves and one for our clients for a project. And that separates things too far. So now, where did the document live? We're editing the document over here. We need to move it over there. It doesn't make sense. And some things just aren't ready for the client because it's not ready. It's not something that we don't want to show that sausage making sometimes, dependent upon the client. Sometimes it just gets in the way. Right. So
I think you nailed it on the head, though. You just said it's something that you need. It fits your organization.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't fit everybody, and I think that's where the complexity comes in.
Absolutely. Right. Mm-hmm.
The other organizations, right?
Yeah, completely. Cause that's why I understand sort of both sides. And one of my other answers was, I really want to see administrative controls, yet more work for people, where I can control private channels at the tenant and team level.
Well, it's just like you're able to, as the team owner, be able to say, no, we're not going to enable this for external use.
There's so much you can do. Mm-hmm.
Right. But that was actually, what I'd love to see is that similar, that the admin can say, hey, look, in our organization, we, allow or don't allow across the entire tenant external. Yeah. And then if it's allowed, then it's at the team level. And now we'll have it with this, assuming we have it at the channel level.
And you can control the team level, lots of stuff, channel creation, who can post messages. This is just another one to me. But
right, so it's a team owner to be able to make a decision and say, you cannot create private channels. Yeah. That should be an option as well as that.
Yes, completely agree. Yep.
Yeah, and one of my things is because I'm like an admin at heart. I would love that area where I can go to one single area and be able to manage everything and have governance built in there. I really don't want to have to. Microsoft is going to give us all these cool tools to introduce and do things with. Give us one place to administer them, and don't force us to go buy a third-party tool to make sure that they're governed and administered correctly. Right? Yeah. Give it to me in one place and make it easy.
Well, and I think there's a bigger statement there, and I think I put as a last question was if you led the Microsoft Teams product team, what 3 features would you have as your top priority?
Only 3.
Yeah, I know, only 3. Well, you can answer multiple times.
I know, you're right, of course.
But one of the things that I added in it is just the fact that I think that there need to be within Office 365, even across Microsoft 365, looking at Windows, looking at the security and the other different pieces, we need to see more and more features that go across workload. Mm-hmm. And information architecture is quickly going that direction, where I want to be able to. I'd love to see an expansion of the 365 admin console to be able to manage information architecture across Teams, Yammer, SharePoint, OneDrive, any other new applications that pop up.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm noticing, like, in the admin panel, because I've been doing a lot in there. Like, you go to the SharePoint admin panel, you see a link to the OneDrive, and it's like, oh, great, there's a connection to the OneDrive stuff. No, it's literally just a link to OneDrive. So I'm right there with you, Christian. It'd be nice to have that one area, and that kind of crosses all those different boundaries. It would make our lives a lot easier, and a lot easier to pitch, to say, you can implement this, but you can also, the administration of it is simple as well. And we never get to say that. We never get to say the management and administration is easy.
No, no, we don't. Any other takeaways before we wrap up here? I know this is just a kind of a quick summary. Any other stuff? Some fun memes that got shared. And you can still go out and go to Twitter, do a search with the CollabTalk hashtag. You'll be able to find this, and I think everything for the last 7 years of doing these TweetJams, you can find all of that data that's out there. And so it's monthly for seven years and 3 months now.
Well done.
So, but anyway, any final thoughts? Any takeaways from this? Was your mind changed on any point, Eric, Stacy?
No.
My only changes is come back with more amazing topics like today's, Christian.
I know it's a diss on past topics. I know.
Possibly.
I feel that.
No, I really did think it was a great conversation. I didn't realize the No Camp would be as vocal as they are, which was really cool. My shout out to No Sparks. I thought he actually worded it well, and I could see him typing away with a smile on his face, kind of, because he'd be that no, we shouldn't have them. But then he admitted that some of his clients are not adopting teams until they get this, but the clients thought I was right. I really appreciate that. I mean, it helps me understand that there are definitely these good arguments as to why we shouldn't have it. Now, I still in the camp, we absolutely need these, but it gives me more reasons to say, great, let's have those controls. Maybe it should be off by default. This should be something you would turn on if you would want to have private channels. Great. It was a great, fun conversation today.
I do think we need to be very careful that whatever gets released, that we don't take the Pollyanna approach and just looking at, wow, this is fantastic. And I think we need to, hold Microsoft's feet to the fire on especially the admin, the security, the compliance capabilities around this. I know that day one, I've run my business off of Microsoft Teams since day one, big fan of the product. But coming from that admin migration standpoint, there's been some rough spots that still need to be worked on. And I just, hopefully the team is being thoughtful about some of these administrative and compliance security concerns around private channels. I'm sure they are.
I think we'll all continue to talk blue in the face on all those topics, and hopefully eventually, we'll all get to breathe.
There's a reason why my corporate color is the blue, and I leave the blue face up on Twitter, because that's what I do. I talk myself until I'm blue in the face. So.
I do think that if you look at user voice, there's 18,000 votes, I think, for private channels, and Microsoft's been reasonably transparent. I have a belief that they're trying to get it right based on their public comments, that they understand they can't just roll out something that maybe would work. They do want to get this right. So I'm encouraged by what they've been saying there over on user voice. It's frustrating for sure. I wanted this a year ago, and they said a year ago it's coming.
I heard that this is like the third or fourth iteration of a solution they come up with, because
that they publicly said, absolutely. Yeah. And that's encouraging to me that they are taking it seriously, and I'm frustrated, but at the same time, I'm very hopeful that they will get it right this first time. So we'll see. And I agree, we have to hold their feet to the fire, because some of the responses were these issues that my response is, that's not my problem, in the sense that Microsoft has to figure that out. They need to make this kind of stuff simple. It should not be overly complex. If it's complex under the hood, that shouldn't be my problem. So.
Exactly. Well, thanks a lot, Eric and Stacy, for your time here. And hopefully we'll catch you at next month's TweetJam, where we're going to be talking about business apps.
Absolutely. I'll be there.
Says Eric, who's hosting me in a webinar on the business apps topic next month. But anyway, well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.